Oh, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Jar of Marble dwellers and Jar of Marble curious. My name is Linda and this is Jar of Marbles. Well, we're closing in on that very special, I was going to say spacious, special time of the year, Valentine's Day. And I thought, look, I've got to talk about it because, we've all had various experiences and some I would imagine are interesting, some are funny. And I thought, well, why don't we just have a little talk about it and see what we come up with? Okay, glad that you're here. So much romance to be had, and only on the 14th, I do believe. Valentine's Day, when your love is new and spicy. And Valentine's Day, or VD as I like to call it, you can get all carried away and buy the roses and whatever else you deem Valentinian. Happy Valentine's Day to my wife or my hot date for life, or the card that says, yay, we still like each other. Yeah, no. Happy Valentine's Day to my wife. Happy Valentine's Day to my husband, to my partner, to the love of my life. Valentine's Day has its roots in an ancient pagan festival. In the 1300s, it officially became a holiday associated with love. Cupid has his roots in Greek mythology. The first Valentine was sent in the 15th century. Not until the 1840s did we get the first mass-produced Valentines. Valentine's Day started as a form of rebellion. Don't you just love that? The most popular theory about Valentine's Day origin is that Emperor Claudius II didn't want Roman men to marry during wartime. St. Valentine went against his wishes and performed secret weddings, which means this day was originally founded on an act of rebellion.
Oh, I like the sound of that.
Yeah, me too, Bob. Not all Valentines are chosen on purpose. Receive a Valentine today, and it could be a sign that someone has a secret crush on you. Go back to the Middle Ages, though, and the situation is a little different. Back then, young men and women drew names from a bowl to see who would be their Valentine. The single woman's name would be added to an urn, and the single man of the town would take a name out, pin it to their sleeves for one whole week. This would allow everyone in the town to see who their Valentine was, and could be where the term wearing your heart on your sleeve originates. I know. And did you know that Juliet still gets love letters sent to her on Valentine's Day? William Shakespeare's most famous romance, Romeo and Juliet, has captured hearts for decades, so much so that Juliet still receives love letters on Valentine's Day.
The world's filled with very interesting people.
It's a very nice way to put it, Bob. Every year, the city of Verona in Italy, where the play was set, receives around 1,000 letters addressed to Juliet. Not bad for someone who's been dead for hundreds of years. Sounds a bit fabulous, though, I thought. And did you know that Henry VIII decided when Valentine's Day should be celebrated? Henry VIII, who exhibited some symptoms of, what would you say, syphilis. Yummy. I know. Well, he married a total of 6 women throughout his lifetime, and did you know he was responsible for when we actually celebrate Valentine's Day? Back in 1537, King Henry VIII declared by royal charter that Valentine's Day would be a public holiday, which was the 14th of February, as the official day of celebration. Thank you, Henry. Thank you so much. No, really, Henry. No, truly, thank you. Anyway, Valentine's cards are big news for those of school age, but surprisingly, it is teachers, not pupils, who get the most. Teachers generally receive the largest number of Valentine's Day cards with children, mothers, wives, and pets. Yes, pets. Yes, filling the rest of the top 5 recipients list. I remember once an incredible bouquet of flowers were delivered to me at my workplace, but I was having a day off, so someone decided to tell the deliverer to send it to my husband's workplace. So when he arrived home carrying these amazing flowers, and of course I started thanking him, as he wasn't one to buy flowers, and certainly nothing like these. He's more a diamond and gold man, if you know what I mean. But anywho, he handed them to me and he said that they'd been delivered to his workshop. there was a card that said something, about the goddess who I must love from a distance. And to this day, absolutely no idea who sent them. I left them in my husband's TV room so that he could admire them. They were an extraordinary bouquet, but no clue.
Oh, you didn't? You did you?
Yeah, I did, Bob. I thought that he would quite like the flowers because, as I say, even to this day, no idea where they came from. And let me say, I need to add to this that it was like the most amazing bouquet I have ever seen. So it would have been an expensive prank, put it that way. So as my daughters became women of their own, on occasion, if an old flame sent them flowers, they would hand the flowers to me and say, I don't want them. And I would have a lovely arrangement to take home. And then I would be telling my husband that here's another bunch of flowers that were meant for one of my girls, but ended up with me. I think he would just sort of like shrug his shoulders, as I did seem, interestingly, just to appear with quite a fair amount of flowers, and usually around Valentine's Day, that mostly were not intended for me. Hilarious. I never gave it much thought until I started thinking about this podcast, and then I thought, well, actually, when you think about it, it's quite sort of kind of good. I know. Thank you. Oh, you've got to laugh, don't you? I mean, really. I know it's really, really lame, but anyway, I don't care. But so thank you. No, really, no, thank you. Bob, sometimes, that's it. Sometimes I think that, I'm not the one that's strange.
What, so you're saying I'm strange?
Well, actually, Bob, yeah, I do. I do find you a little bit odd, but I'm really glad that you're here, though.
Oh, all right.
Did you ever hear about the St. Valentine's Day massacre? It was the murder of 7 members and associates of Chicago's North Side gang that occurred on St. Valentine's Day in 1929. The men were gathered at Lincoln Park, Chicago, at a garage. On the morning of February the 14th, they were lined up against a wall and shot by 4 unknown assailants, 2 dressed as police officers. The murders resulted from the competition for control of organised crime in the city during Prohibition between the largely Irish Northsiders headed by George Bugs Moran and their largely Italian Chicago outfit rivals led by Al Capone. See, it's not all random flower giving, is it? A number of weird or terrible things have happened on Valentine's Day. Ever seen the movie The Notebook? If you haven't, you must watch it. It's totally swoon-worthy, very Valentine-ish. That iconic rain-soaked kiss makes The Notebook a romantic classic powered by the palpable chemistry between Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams. But what really brings on the tears in the relationship between their older characters, played by James Garner, and director Cassavetes' mother, Gina Rowlands. That is a heart rip out situation right there. I won't tell you what it is if you haven't seen it. Favourite quote: so it's not going to be easy. It's going to be really hard. We're going to have to work at this every day, but I want to do that because I want you. I want all of you forever, every day. You and me, every day. And that's by the lead, Noah. #Valentine's Day. I think this might be about time to introduce the love potion, so-called aphrodisiacs for all year round, not just on Valentine's Day. And some of these mixes you might have a bit of a hard time talking anybody into having them, but there you have it. Rare, bizarre ingredients have taken positions in the aphrodisiac world. Consider oysters. You think, okay, well, that sounds reasonable, especially if you like oysters. Or bird's nest soup, piranhas, there you go, and sparrow tongues. Like, the mind just boggles. Sparrow tongues, like, ooh. Poor sparrow, that's what I actually mean. The yojo brothel workers of feudal Japan swore by a tincture of eels, lotus root, and charred newt. So, meanwhile, back in our century, the foods that are known as aphrodisiac, as oysters, as mentioned, artichokes, asparagus, chocolate, figs, spicy chili peppers, strawberries, and watermelon. In modern times, chocolate has often been associated with romance, and with good reason, because apparently it's been well known for its aphrodisiac properties. I mean, look, I've got to tell you, I quite like chocolate. I've got to say, I don't get wild and wicked. I don't get all jiggy with it. It's just like, well, that's nice little piece of chocolate. But anyway, apparently it releases these chemicals into the brain when people fall in love. So, I don't know what else to tell you. Now, there was a 12th century medical writer, a guy by the name of Moses Maimonides or Moses Maimonides or Maimonides. Anyway, came up with a remedy that produced excellent results for a man's bedroom issues. So what you do is got a pencil and paper? Here we go. Just take 50 bird brains, 20 egg yolks, the juice of lamb's meat, the juice of roasted onions, carrot juice, and the quantity of butter, and you make it into a nice cake. Right. And then there was the ointment, where you take large black ants and you put them alive in the sun in a glass bottle, and you pour outer oil on them and you hang them in the sun for several days. And this should be used on the man's parts and the soles of the feet. Of course, you can't forget the soles of the feet. And you pair this with a good diet and excellent results are sure to ensue. You cannot overlook rabbit testicles, bird brains, or pig eye platter, and you'll be hotter than a marshmallow over a campfire in the August heat. You know what I mean? Assuming you don't puke first, that is. Now, how to arouse someone from the early Middle Ages. Bald's Leech Book. Warm milk is more effective than alcohol. Bald's Leech Book is a compilation of various medical texts that survives in a 10th century manuscript, recently digitised, I do believe. A large part of the compilation dates to the 9th century and is associated with King Alfred the Great. And one segment that may have interested Alfred in particular is chapter 70 of the first Leech Book, which deals with ways to temper or arouse one's lust. Other ailment cures in Bald's Leech Book advises someone to sleep on the ashes of a burnt dog's head in order to cure a headache. I mean, wow. And if you're having trouble retaining your urine, you should eat the bladder of a goat or a ram, and if you suffer from swollen eyes, just catch a live crab, put out its eyes, and place its eyes on your neck. The cure, in other words, matches the disease. Could the recommendation to slip some deer testicles into a woman's streak be a product of the same line of reasoning? And would the buck, goat, and boar be used because they are known as particularly wanton animals? So take, for example, the practice described by the 10th century Bishop Burchard of worms. I know you heard right. In his penitential guide, he stated that any woman who inserted a live fish into herself, leaving it there until it died, and then cooking it and serving it to her husband for the purpose of increasing his sexual urges, must serve 2 years of penance. Although he mentioned this practice in great detail, modern scholars believe that most likely this practice was actually a fetish of the bishop and not actually practiced. I mean, my goodness gracious, aren't you glad that you know a little bit more than what they did? I don't know. Terrible, really. So it just turned out that the bishop was a bit of a ding-dong. I mean, seriously, I'm so surprised. No, I'm not. I'm not surprised at all. But, it's just so interesting the trouble that we can go to, to fan the flames of desire, and, off you go with your can of asparagus and your little bottle of figs, a little bit of chocky, and your little bowl of oysters, and just see if you can, get someone to be your Valentine, or if they already are your Valentine, that that they like all that kind of food and effort, and I hope that it all goes swimmingly well for you. I just thought, as I was just reading and just getting a little bit of research around the subject of trying to be all Valentinian, and then I thought, what about love potions? Are there ways you can lure in your prey, so to speak? So so far it's all been sort of interesting, but mostly weird. I know.
Really weird.
Oh, I know, Bob. I know. And so then I had a little look at some of the names that have been invented or created to sell aphrodisiacs. There is Ball Boost, No Ugly Libido, Erectomax, Fire Pills, Go Big, and perfumes called Mojo Pro, pure instinct, max, libido. Is romance really dead though? In spite of the rise in romance reality shows, it is possible romance is actually disappearing in real life. The statistics certainly paint a picture that love is on the decline, whether it's less sex, more singles, or fewer romantic gestures. I thought about this and it got me thinking about the stress that accompanies our lives today. Loving gestures on the back end of worries never help romance to flourish. In fact, from the people I've spoken to and know well, romance has taken a back seat for a long time. It seems most of us are trying to get through the day so we can sleep. The big aim is to get to sleep because most of the content of our day is have-tos, got-to-dos, must-haves, and not a lot to do with personal needs that make life wonderful. We are, after all, human beings. Valentine's Day, while we have known it as a huge commercial marketing initiative, so we've got our red roses being the top choice of Valentine Day flowers. It is little wonder that the lead up to February 14th is one of the busiest times of the year for florists everywhere. February the 14th is the most romantic day of the year, so it comes as very little surprise that many marriage proposals are made on Valentine's Day.
You can't say proposal.
Yes, I can, Bob. Originally, Valentine's Day cards were handmade, and it wasn't long before manufacturers began making them. The very first card of record was a poem written by Charles, the Duke of Orleans, to his wife from his prison cell in the Tower of London in 1415. And by the 16th century, the exchanging of cards was growing popular, and by the early 19th century, the Valentine card was the most commonly given gift. Have you ever heard of Lovelocks and how the phenomenon began? The custom of Lovelocks for lovers is a fairly recent occurrence and is something that has been steadily growing in popularity around the world. A lovelock is a paddock, not paddock, it's a side paddock. No, it's a padlock on which the initials of two people who love each other are etched, scratched, or engraved. The padlock is a symbol of the couple's eternal love for each other. The love lock is then attached to a monument or significant landmark, locked, and the keys are thrown into the river or some body of water. It is for this reason that bridges are a popular location for love locks to be placed. While locks of love may seem like a recent custom, in actuality this romantic tradition dates back several centuries and is believed to have its origins in China. Therefore, the recent interest in following this ages-old tradition is actually a resurgence rather than a new occurrence. In ancient China, padlocks were used to protect things, much as they're used today to lock things up and make it more difficult for thieves to gain access. Just when padlocks became a symbol of love, it's not confirmed, but the most famous historical incidence of love locks was actually in Serbia. As the story goes, the tradition of love locks began prior to World War II. A young woman named Nada died as a result of a broken heart. The innocent schoolmistress was engaged to be married, but he changed his mind, broke their engagement and married another woman. I know.
What a cad.
Well, he changed his mind, Bob. But before he ended their relationship, the couple would meet on the bridge, and it is to that bridge that the young local girls began attaching padlocks that bore the name of the girl and her loved one. The tradition has spread throughout many other parts of the world. Today, there are a number of monuments that many lovers flock to in order to attach their love locks and declare their eternal love for each other. Some of the more famous monuments are on bridges in Italy, Florence, in Cologne, Germany, in Bamberg, Canadian Wild Pacific Trail. Where else? I was thinking about this before. It was also, there's one in Ireland. It has its bridge Halfpenny, and in Taiwan, train stations are a popular place for the padlocks to be attached. For the most romantic at heart, the love lock is the perfect Valentine's Day gift for a loved one. Choose a padlock that has a good surface for having your initials or names engraved on it. Once you have the lock engraved and wrapped in beautiful packaging, you have only to decide where you want you and your loved one to attach it. It's a massive business having your padlock designed in colours or choice with special messages engraved. It's a lovely gesture though, I thought. Bridges are a good choice because then the two of you can follow the tradition all the way through by attaching the padlock, locking it, then throwing the keys into the river below. Of course, you don't have to choose a bridge. You can find any location that means a lot to you to attach the padlock to, and then find somewhere where you can toss the keys at a later time. In Paris, the locks had to be removed as the weight was causing structural damage to the bridge. I know, right? Formerly adorned with padlocks, covered in the initials of lovers and friends, authorities took them off and discouraged their use back in 2015. So that's, 7 years ago. Apparently, since then, over 1 million more have been added. That's about 45 tonnes. That was as of November 2022 last year. The Lovelock Bridge along the River Walk in San Antonio has become a popular custom for couples after saying I do. And Lovelocks are a symbol of love and commitment. We have been motivated by an ancient custom which is believed to have originated in China, where lovers lock a padlock on a chain or a gate, a fence, and then they throw away the key, symbolically locking their love forever. Romance. It's so romantic, isn't it? I know. It's lovely, really. Anyway, but it is apparently only for those who are not married, if one definition I found is to be considered. A romance is a relationship where two people who are in love with each other but who are not married to each other. I just love to know who comes up with this stuff. I mean, truly, really, really. And there's even suggestions on how to be romantic. Here you go. You're going to love this. Be thoughtful, express yourself, give gifts, know your partner's love language. I mean, that's just, that's another very interesting one, that one, isn't it? Listen attentively, make time for your partner, show physical affection, surprise them. Boo! Maybe not. In Australia, locks of love can be found at Mount Keira, so look out near Wollongong, on bridges across the Yarra River in Melbourne, and the University Footbridge over the River Torrens in Adelaide. It is fair to say that it actually is quite international. I was talking to a friend this morning about Lovelocks. No idea what I was talking about. And to be perfectly honest, I had sort of kind of heard of it, but I didn't really know much about it. But there you go. We all know now, don't we? Yes, we do. That's right.
I know.
Yes, you do, Bob. Which brings us to the end of yet another podcast. I hope that you had a lovely Valentine's Day. I hope that you just had a lovely day on the 14th. I mean, some people go all out and other people think, oh no, it's that day again. So whatever it was, I hope it was lovely for you. I hope it was romantic and lovely and beautiful. We could all do with a bit of romance, I say. But anyway, it is time to go. Thank you as always for popping by. Say good day to the family and the pet elephant for me. And I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.